The Trump administration seems intent on testing the limits of presidential power in its legal battles with the courts over immigration. Two judges have now publicly opened the door to holding the Trump administration in contempt for violating court orders. Today, in the case of the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport immigrants, a federal judge in Washington said he has found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in criminal contempt for violating his order directing officials to halt the deportation of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador. It comes after a Maryland district judge said yesterday she was weighing contempt proceedings against the Trump administration over its inaction to return Mr. Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador, back to the U.S. Despite a Supreme Court order last week that the administration facilitate his return to the U.S., today Attorney General Pam Bondi once again insisting that would not be happening.
He is not coming back to our country. There was no situation ever where he was going to stay in this country. None. He would have come back, had one extra step of paperwork, and gone back again. But he's from El Salvador, he's in El Salvador, and that's where the president plans on keeping him.
Attorney General Bondi also continued to push the administration's claim that Mr. Abrego Garcia is a member of the MS-13 gang, though his attorneys say that is false, and note he's never been convicted of a crime. Democrats, meanwhile, are demanding Abrego Garcia be returned to the U.S. and are highlighting the case as another instance of the president attacking the rule of law. Right now, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen is on the ground in El Salvador, where he met with the country's vice president as he continues to push for Abrego Garcia's release.
I want to emphasize that President Trump and our Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Vice President of the United States are lying when they say that Abrego Garcia has been charged with a crime or is part of MS-13. That is a lie. I said I'm not asking him to smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. I'm simply asking him to open the door of CCOT and let this innocent man walk out. I asked him if I came back next week whether I'd be able to see Mr. Abrego Garcia. He said he couldn't promise that either.
Joining me now is NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell and NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. Kelly, let's start with you at the White House with Judge Boasberg, who says he found probable cause to hold the administration in contempt. What are your White House sources telling you? What's the response been there?
Well, the immediate response is that the White House will seek appellate relief from Judge Boasberg's order, and this is ratcheting up the tension between the White House and the judicial branch, sort of further digging in on the White House position that it has conducted things appropriately. Judge Boasberg is really not dealing with the overall questions about who Abrego Garcia is. He is focused on the specific things he requested of the government, answers he wanted, at a time and place that has been spelled out in the courts, and he is not getting that information. He's not satisfied with the responses, and he believes, based on this ruling, that there is a willful disregard for the court's order. So this is, on some levels, it's about the story of this one man, his family that's an American wife and American children. He is El Salvadoran. And there's a lot of attention around who he is and what he may or may not have been associated with. And then there's also this other piece of it, which is about the mechanics of government and following the rule of law for a case that is involved here, but could apply in many other circumstances. And so the White House wants to push this to the next level to seek relief there. And again, probable cause for contempt is certainly ratcheting up from the court's position that they see likely evidence of misconduct by the Trump administration, probable cause for contempt.
Yeah, gearing up to be a real showdown. Kelly, Gary, let me turn to you. What happens next in this case? What are you going to be watching for?
So just in the Alien Enemies case here in D.C., because I know we're talking about
there are a couple different cases. Yes, thank you for clarifying.
With the Alien Enemies case here in D.C., the government really has two options. One, they can do what's called purging their contempt, which means obeying the court's order. To do that, what they would have to do is allow hundreds of people in El Salvador to be put back in their country. All those people, the Venezuelans in CCOT, put back in their custody and go through individualized authorized habeas proceedings. This would take a very long time and be very expensive for the U.S. government. Their other option is that Judge Boasberg said today is start naming names. Who are the people that instructed the planes not to turn around, not to land, and to take off after the judge's order on March 15th?
Could those people be held in contempt, Gary? How would that work?
So that is where contempt proceedings would begin, and that would look like a variety of different options. It's up to Judge Boasberg exactly how he wants to play that out. As we're seeing in Maryland, she's going it through depositions and through record requests, and that's how that's playing out there, not necessarily in person, live, on the stand interviews, if you will, before court, but closed-door depositions.
Kelly, we played some of the kind of public uproar about the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia. Do you get the sense, based on your conversations there, that the White House is feeling pressure to in any way? I mean, you heard the defiance of Pam Bondi at the top of the show. Is there any sense that they're changing course at this point?
Well, certainly the president has publicly committed in the past that he would abide by judicial orders and would do what the Supreme Court says when it raises to that level on any of these matters. But they also have a very strong position that they believe is supported by voters and a strong belief in their position that the president's views on an aggressive approach to immigration and deportations is part of what brought him into office. They believe that is their mission, and they want the focus to be on that piece, sort of the policy side of these matters, and less focused on the details of each individual case. There are many questions we don't have answers for on the specifics of any evidence or allegations or specific proof that could be offered about the specific involvement of Abrego Garcia in anything illegal that would cause beyond being in the country without citizenship, although he had temporary ability to be in the U.S. Any of those kinds of specifics is where there's a lot of resistance. On the big themes, they believe politically it is in their favor. But what is notable is what you are seeing at some of the town hall meetings, especially in places that are more typically red states, certainly in Iowa, when Chuck Grassley, one of the deans of the Senate, addresses members of his community and they ask about due process, there may be a shift in some of the public perception. Again, not about the biography or the story of one individual, but about the process that could be repeated in many different circumstances, much more broadly. And so questions about due process, rule of law, adhering to courts, all of those things appear to be bubbling up more in public discourse, and not sure yet how the White House will respond to that, except using each lever that they can through the courts.
Well, and Gary, let's play a little bit of what we are hearing from the White House and the Trump administration broadly as it relates to Abrego Garcia and why they believe right now he should be held in El Salvador. Take a listen.
Abrego Garcia was a foreign terrorist. He is an MS-13 gang member. He was engaged in human trafficking. He illegally came into our country.
He is an illegal alien who has been living illegally in our country from El Salvador. ICE testified. An immigration judge ruled he was a member of MS-13. An appellate judge ruled he was a member of MS-13.
And yet, Gary, his attorneys insist that he's not a member of MS-13. Has there been any real evidence put forward to prove that he is?
No, and so much of what we just heard is either factually incorrect or that we just don't have that evidence. We have no evidence he was involved in human smuggling or human trafficking. Absolutely no evidence of that. If the White House provides that evidence, we can go from there. We have no evidence he's a foreign terrorist. He's never been charged with a crime here in the U.S. or El Salvador. That we do know. And as it relates to MS-13, the only evidence we have that he's perhaps engaged and related to MS-13 is a confidential human source that spoke to in an immigration proceeding in 2019. We don't have information about what that confidential human source actually said, only that there was one that said he was a member of MS-13. His attorneys deny it. His wife denies it.
Yeah, and his wife speaking out in incredibly emotional ways. Gary, thank you so much. Kelly O'Donnell, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.